welcome to Know the Neo. Today we are here with Dr. Seabolt.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am good. How are you?
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm obviously the assistant principal here at Neo City Academy. This is my second year as the assistant principal. Prior to that, I was a research and evaluation specialist for the school district for our research, evaluation, and accountability department. I was there for 6 years, and prior to that, I taught high school math for 5 years. Some here, some in North Carolina, where I'm from. That's about it. I have a wife, a daughter, a dog.
What can you tell us about your time spent in high school and how it affected your life today?
Time spent in high school, I would say that I had a good high school experience. I did have good grades, straight A's. I did not take as many advanced courses as I should have. Most likely that's just because of the fact that our high school did not offer them. However, I wish that, I would have done some things maybe to better prepare myself for college when it comes to that coursework. But, it was still a good experience. I was also big into athletics, so I was a baseball player and a wrestler. Actually, I had a scholarship to wrestle. I chose not to, and just kind of focus on academics when it came time to it.
Are there any quotes that you would say you live or think about often?
No, I'm actually not really like a big quote guy. I'll see things, on the internet, on Facebook or wherever, with memes and things, and I'll browse and I'll say, oh, that's cool, but I've never really wanted to like save it and live by necessarily anything. It's just not really like my thing.
Is there anyone or multiple people who really made you who you are today and got you to where you are in life currently?
So initially I would say my parents, just because they were extremely involved in my education from the time I was a kindergarten student through a high school senior. Even so really in my college experiences. In college, it kind of trailed off a little bit. I didn't have as many people, I would say, like faculty-wise in college that I felt like a very close connection to until I really got to my doctorate program. But then, like work-related, one of my colleagues from research and evaluation, my job prior to this, she really kind of took me under her wing and taught me a lot of things that I needed to know. Her name is Heather, and then my boss, Janine, as well. And then since I've been here, Mr. Meechan also has done a really excellent job in terms of just kind of showing me the ropes in terms of one day becoming like a principal.
What events have made the biggest impact on your life?
I would say, most recently, really within the past 5 years, the birth of my daughter. The only reason I say that is because working in education, when you have like your own kids that are going to be kind of going through the schooling system K through 12, I think it changes my outlook in terms of the way that I would want things to be done for her. So I think about that in terms of the way that I think about all the students here. I think with all the decisions we make, I always ask myself, like, is this what I would do for Charlotte? Is this like what I would be cool with? And if the answer to that is yes, then I always feel good about like the decisions we're making.
20 years ago, is this where you saw yourself?
No, probably not. 20 years ago, that would have made me 15 years old. So I would have been probably like in your position right now about, probably like as a sophomore in high school. So at that time, I was probably just thinking about what I needed to do to become like a state champion in wrestling, more so than anything else. And thinking about like what I was going to do that weekend. That's, I didn't really have much plans at that point in time. At the time I remember thinking like I wanted to be a lawyer, but that was mainly because I didn't really know about other careers or anything. I didn't really actually even figure that piece out even until I got into college. So no, I would say that being like an assistant principal or in education for that matter at all probably wasn't even on my radar because I really didn't even consider that whatsoever.
Where do you see yourself in 20 more years?
So let's see, that'll put me at 55, which is scary. But in 20 years, well, I mean, I guess at that point, I'll still be in education. So career-wise, at that point, I would like to have thought at that point I've already been a principal and potentially like an assistant superintendent or higher at that point. Like personally, I guess it'll be closer to like retirement, which is also, once again, extremely scary to think that that's like something that can even be talked about as a possibility that's 20 years away. But a lot of people do retire like in their mid-50s. So yeah, I guess it could be, I could still be working and kind of finishing things up, or I might even be retired at that point.
Is there any way, process, concept, or idea that you would improve society for the better if adopted by them?
Well, yes. I mean, you know, a lot of the things that we do here at New City, you've probably heard Mr. Meachin say that we operate sort of as a lab school. And kind of really what that means is that a lot of the policies, procedures, and things that we do, we're putting in based off of sound research practices and doing things that the other schools are not necessarily doing. And it's not because they don't want to. It's more or less that we just have the ability with some of the resources we have here to put some things into place. So when we do things like our standards-based grading or the way that we offer our bell schedule, like with the research times and all those periods, to try to model after post-secondary, things that you guys do with your portfolios, your presentations of learning, all that stuff is really the goal is to help prepare you guys for post-secondary, whatever that might be, to make sure that when you get there, you flourish. So yeah, I would think that, you know, anything that we do, the goal is to eventually be able to replicate those practices across the entire district and eventually further out even so.
What is one thing towards the top of your bucket list professionally?
Professionally, you know, I'd say eventually I want to run the whole show. And by that, I mean like the entire district. So like what Dr. Pace does as the superintendent. That would be, like we were talking about a minute ago with the 20-year plan, that would be something that would probably be done in like the last 5 years or so. I don't discount the fact that no, you're fine. The amount of work that comes along with that type of position is very demanding. So it'd be something that, you know, would kind of be the last chapter necessarily. I guess another thing that I haven't even thought about is, and didn't mention so far, is that at some point I do want to still adjunct at UCF. That's where my doctorate's from, so I always have like a special place for UCF in terms of going back and teaching some courses there, but that would be like a part-time deal, like in the evenings. So yeah, that's something that, you know, I could see myself doing for sure professionally, or as like another, you know, milestone.
If you were to become superintendent, what would be some of the goals that you want to achieve?
Well, I don't know. That's a great question because that's like a long-term deal. You know, if I'm answering it in terms of like what I would do right now is I would really want to reform, like we're at the high school level right now, but I would really want to focus our efforts on what we're doing here to see if it can be replicated at the elementary and middle school level as well, so that it's not just the high school that is focused on, but, you know, a lot of the things that we talk about here, we say, you know, man, like what if we could put this into place like in earlier grades, like how would that look by the time like a student gets to high school? Like, would they be that much more prepared for high school? The way that we kind of think, like, what we're doing here, is that going to prepare you guys better than, like, other students for when you get to college? So it's the same kind of thought process as going back levels. It's still doing it like that. So yeah, that would probably be a focus, is trying to figure out how to make that work like K through 12, not just high school.
What are a few things on the top of your bucket list personally?
Personally, well, I mean, I would say, one thing that we've talked a lot about at home is just traveling more and like experiences with that. So our daughter, who is currently going to be 4 in 2 weeks, as she was like a little bit younger and like a baby, it was a little bit more harder to travel and just take her places. Also, the fact is that she's just not going to remember things. Like if we take her somewhere, like you're little, you're not going to remember that. But we're getting to the age now where experiences like that she specifically remembers. So I personally think that like one of the best things that anybody can do to kind of learn more about the world is to go and see it and just experience it. So I kind of want that for her, to be able to take her and go and and see places and do things. And, there's the responsible part of me that, talks about how you should, save for retirement and do all these investments and everything, which is a very important piece. But at the same time, it's also one of those things that I also don't want to just save money for the sake of saving money and investing, and never, in 20 years look back and be like, we never did anything. Like, we never did anything cool or fun or awesome, or had any good experiences or memories to like look back on and reflect on. So it's a balance, but yeah, that's kind of like the big thing right now, is just focusing on doing more things that are outside the box, traveling wise.
Where are some places that you want to travel?
These are good questions. So, well, right now, so our next trip is actually Arizona. So we're doing like Grand Canyon this summer. So that's kind of next on the big trip. That's actually going to be our first big, like a little bit bigger family vacation that requires like a flight. She has flown before, but it's really just to see family. All of our other little vacations have just been driving to places, so it's not been that big of a deal. So this is kind of like a test run, more so, to see like how that goes down at the age of 4. And Arizona is not like super far away, so I think it's going to be a good experiment. But beyond that, we have like a whole, like, I don't know. We talked about, I know this probably sounds ridiculous, but like my wife and I went to Paris about 5 or 6 years ago, prior to her being born. But we want to take her back because in Disneyland Paris, they're actually building like a whole Frozen land, which I feel bad that this is even being recorded and I'm saying this out loud, but like I kind of personally want to see it as well. So I'm kind of excited to like introduce my daughter to like Europe, but also to like Disneyland Paris, to see like just what that's going to look like and see the whole Frozen stuff. I think it's going to be awesome, and one day you will too. When you have kids of your own, you'll probably think the same thing.
Well, thank you for being on today.
Yeah, you are welcome. If you guys ever need anything, let me know.
Thank you.